Nothing if not prompt, you know?
I guess so. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
We've all been here before, so.
Yes. Okay.
All right, I was about to call this meeting to order, and if we're all ready, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise, I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nancy, if you would call the roll, please.
Dwayne Jones,
I'm here.
Linda Seiler,
I'm here.
Shelley Mamberto, Marty Spalding,
Here.
John Veach,
Here.
and Dennis is not here either today. Yep, okay. All right,
All right, good deal. We have the agenda in front of us. And if,
Move to adopt.
all right, we got a motion by Marty to adopt. Any second?
Second.
John? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed to that? Good. The minutes are also in our packet that we either picked up or were delivered. And assuming everybody's had a chance to at least look at them, is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
Marty and John, first and second, respectively. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. Anything on site inspections, Katie?
Nope, and you'll notice that this is a little bit different than a previous agenda, but going through the bylaws, I noted that in the order of business, it does have site inspection in there, so I was just kind of getting our standard agenda up to what the bylaws indicate, but yes, we do not have any site inspection today.
Okey-doke. By the sounds of it, we're gonna change possibly change the agenda a little bit again.
Yep.
So, okay, no public hearings. On to our business section, action on pending cases, and we have a couple of revisitations once again. And I don't know if you've been here almost as much as I have. So, number one on the agenda, though, for a variance extension request is the Morton Salt exterior project that apparently you can explain to us what's happened, but I know there's been some delays and what have you.
Yeah, most of our delays have to do with renewable operating permits with the state. We had to do things in a certain series in order to pass permitting. So right now we're waiting for our new operating permit. We are doing stack testing at the end of this month. That will allow us to proceed with this project.
Just out of curiosity, what's your timeline looking like now, assuming that, you know, we approve an extension, you're moving forward?
July I want to break ground.
Okay, so, yeah, because, you know, you go to lunch down at Painted Lady and you kind of look for those silos to be gone.
As long as much as you do.
I bet you do. Katie, what is the procedure on doing it? We don't have to jump through the questionnaire yet again, do we?
No, so the zoning ordinance, and I did consult with the city attorney on this, that another public hearing or whatnot would not be required. But the zoning ordinance does authorize the zoning board of appeals to grant an extension. So the subsection that I had included in the memo for you guys indicates that each variance granted under the provisions of this ordinance shall become null and void unless the construction authorized by the variance received a city zoning permit within 1 year after granting the variance, and the occupancy of land, premises, or building authorized by the variance has taken place within 1 year after granting the variance. And then this is the part that's important to us tonight, unless an extension of time has been granted by the zoning board of appeals. So it doesn't really give a criteria for how long that extension could be or should be. I would encourage the zoning board of appeals to not do something too long that it's not trackable, you know, like enough time that the applicant can get their work done. It sounds like they're looking to break ground in July, so I don't know if you know, like a 6-month extension sounds appropriate, but I also wouldn't want it to be too short of an extension that they have to come back again. So
can the argument be made that by granting the extension, it moves the goalpost from now, the granting of the extension?
Well, they would have their approval for from 1 year from July 13th. So we could give them like an additional 6 months from when it would have expired. And I think that would be appropriate.
That was kind of where what I was wondering.
Right.
How, how the timing falls at the end of when the clock stops running, where are we?
I have a question.
Yeah, Marty, go ahead.
What do you anticipate is the time you're going to need regardless of what we decide to give you?
Oh, to complete the project?
Mhm.
The building, the surrounding building will not be up for another year, but the silos will be erected. The goal is to get those out this year.
So this, what you're proposing here, which is a penthouse on top of the existing mill building,
That's already completed.
okay?
That part's completed already.
But it's the large, I believe it was like a 30 by 60 building to house the silos. So if you're saying, I mean, I think a year could be appropriate, a year from July could be appropriate. I might caution anything longer than that. It might be appropriate for them to come back again or potentially, go through the process again if it were to take longer than that.
Is there a limit on the number of extensions we can grant?
I mean, it doesn't specify that, so I would say no. But again, just cautioning, with the time frame, and I guess thinking outside of these specific projects, if someone were to come back for multiple extensions, you don't necessarily want to let something carry on too long.
Sure.
And we could potentially set a precedent with doing this, so just keeping those factors in mind.
We want to keep the fire under the pan, so to
Yes.
speak, but also not
Be reasonable, be reasonable.
not
with it.
cause somebody to have to come back every 3 months.
Exactly.
Right, but
So-
also at the same time, we get some updates.
You're anticipating that it's going to be all of a year and maybe some more? Is that what I just heard?
Correct. Just getting the silos erected themselves is gonna take at least 6 months.
Well, I for one up here certainly appreciate how long it takes to get things done sometimes. There's a lot of little trapdoors, and there's always some third party that's going to throw something your way. Is a motion appropriate at this time? I would move that we extend for 1 year with the understanding that anything beyond that date needs to come back for an additional extension and is not guaranteed.
I guess depending on status.
Sure.
Any second to Marty's motion?
I'll second it.
Second. Any further discussion on that? Nancy, do you have that motion kind of?
Yeah, you moved to extend it for a year with the understanding that beyond that date, he needs an additional extension.
Okay. How about a roll call vote on that?
Okay. Dwayne Jones?
Yes.
Linda Seiler?
Yes.
Marty Spalding?
Sure.
John Veach?
Yes. There you go.
I like the beard, by the way.
You like what?
John's beard.
I've never seen him without,
No, well, last night or this morning, it was much fuller. Okay, well, you're good to go. So, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Hopefully, things will start moving for you a little more smoothly.
It's been tough just with the amount of turnover we've had in people.
Yeah. Well, as Marty said, it's not easy anyway, so. All right, next on the agenda, we are back to 311 and 313 Maple Street and the ever-popular garage. And where we at? I know you came back and revisited the planning commission.
Yeah, so we unfortunately ended up in this little bit of a catch-22 between the ZBA approval in August and then the special land use permit application and subsequent approval in February. So it's really that time in which we could actually apply for a building permit to get that done. So that interim period there kind of prevented me from getting contractors on board and whatnot because absent having that approval within the building permit. So realistically, due to just the general busyness down on Maple Street there, don't really want to do anything during kind of the peak summer season. So, you know, with that, I would ask that we could maybe do an extension till next spring if needed. I don't think that's going to be necessary. I do anticipate on completing this project this year, but not by August because that constraint, self-imposed constraint to not construct during the peak summer season.
You can fit it in with it in a year. Anybody, any questions on that? I know John and I were here at a planning commission meeting when you came back in. We both looked at each other like, what is going on? I thought we talked about this before, so.
It's one of those things, I guess.
Any discussion? Any motion to grant the variance extension?
So moved.
John?
Support.
Support by Marty. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, aye?
Is there a time amount in
Year.
there? Okay.
1 year. Okay.
Let's do a roll call again, I think.
Dwayne Jones?
Yes.
Linda Seiler?
Yes.
Marty Spalding?
Yes.
John Veach?
Yes.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we have a little internal business housekeeping, and that would be a bylaw amendment.
Yes.
And Katie, if you would explain what that amendment is and why we need it?
Yes. So I know it's not the typical time of the year to do bylaw amendments or review bylaws, but I did have some time to review a board and commission training strategy provided by RRC. And they provide documents from time to time for best practices and just things that the city can do to keep up and be ready redevelopment, ready for redevelopment per the redevelopment ready certification. So, say that 5 times fast. And so with the bylaw amendment and the board and commission training strategy, a big part of this strategy was just incorporating into the bylaws a standing agenda item to address training at every meeting. It doesn't mean that you have to go to training between, every meeting, but just to keep it fresh in all of our boards and commissions' minds that, training is important and it's something we need to keep up on. It also assists staff with tracking training, with annual reporting, that we don't have to, say, hey, did you do any training over the whole year? And everyone's trying to think of what they've done. So just having it as a standing agenda item. And then also you'll see, and I identified this with the red text in the draft bylaws there. You'll also see an annual review of training goals. The RRC training strategy recommends 4 hours of training a year for this board and commission. Again, not required, but that's their recommendation. So putting that right into the bylaws, just as we have the annual review of bylaws, we would have the annual review of training goals. So this is an amendment that is being pursued for all of our boards and commissions. I already took it through the Planning Commission and the Historic District Commission. And then I believe the DDA and City Council will follow suit. But
And the county planning does similar.
yes, the county has a standing agenda item, and it is nice for to just take a moment to really recognize that specifically during discussion instead of just member discussion. We have a solid agenda item that we're talking about training every month. So pretty straightforward and simple amendment that will satisfy one of our RRC requirements. And I would ask for a motion to approve the draft bylaws to send to City Council for final approval.
A question.
Yes.
The conflicts of interest item,
Okay, yeah, I didn't address that.
my understanding of my interpretation maybe is a better word, is that in the process of conducting the meeting, there would simply kind of just be a moment where everybody would be queried as to whether or not they had any potential conflict of interest with anything on the agenda tonight.
Right, yep, and that was
In
something.
advance, rather.
Right, yep, and I apologize for not addressing that. Thank you for bringing that up. So that's something that I had noted when going through the bylaws. The Planning Commission has been putting the conflicts of interest on their agenda for some time, and I noted that it wasn't in this order of business. So since they included it, we've been doing it at the HGC. I felt like it was just, you know, to follow suit with everyone else. And just like you described, you can always disclose a conflict of interest at any point during a meeting, or like right before a business item. Say, for example, tonight, one of you had a conflict of interest with one of these gentlemen. You could have disclosed that, you know, right at the beginning of the meeting, or right before taking action. But this will just create a standing agenda item, so that, yeah, that can be disclosed and recognized at every meeting, and just kind of becomes part of it.
Brownfield authorities do it. Does the city Brownfield Authority do it as well? I would assume they.
I don't know. I haven't really
Yes.
been to the city.
Well, the county does.
County does.
County does, yeah. I'm not
we do.
sure about the city. And then obviously you have your conflict of interest, kind of criteria right in the bylaws. But I think that it can be, you know, a good thing, good reminder, and just another level of transparency. Cause yeah, we've had things come up at the HGC and the Planning Commission, where it could have been a perceived conflict of interest, but whoever had the, you know, potential or perceived conflict disclosed their relationship, that they feel it's not a conflict, and then let the rest of the commission say, you know, okay, we agree with that, no conflict of interest. So yeah, just an additional thing that I felt like I could loop in on here and just get it consistent with our other boards and commissions.
So a member then that thinks they may have a conflict is just gonna kind of describe what they think it may be.
Yeah.
And everybody else is gonna say, sit in the
don't
car,
worry about it.
sit in the car and don't play the radio, or you're okay.
Yeah. For example, we had Catherine Kenny on the HDC, and she's employed by Ed Kritzkowitz with CDI Homes, and he was coming in for facade approval, and she went through, it was ultimately not a conflict of interest, but something like that could be, because she had nothing to gain from his you know, business getting this approval, but something like that could have been perceived as a conflict of interest had they not had that, you know, little discussion at the beginning of the meeting. So,
That keeps it out in front of everybody.
yep,
So, good question though.
yeah.
So, with that, any other questions for Katie, because she's got a good handle on it? If not, is there a motion to approve the amendment?
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment.
Okey-doke, any second? Second, John, all right. No other discussion, Nancy, if you would call the roll on that?
Dwayne Jones?
Yes?
Linda Seiler?
Yes,
Marty Spalding?
Yes.
John Beach?
Yes. All right, that's approved. Public comment, anybody out there want to say anything pressing? If not,
public.
Another wall-to-wall.
yes, and with that, how about a motion to adjourn?
I'd like just to say that this is going to be my last meeting. My term is up, and I got the letter on that, and I'm moving out of my house into a motorhome, so I wouldn't be available.
A motorhome.
Yes, sir? Nothing but a motorhome.
I guess you have no jurisdiction at all now, do you?
Well, I'll have a residence in Manistee.
Are you gonna hit the open road, or are you just,
Yeah.
Are ya?
Wander.
all right,
Wander and wind up in St. Petersburg, Florida sometime heading into winter.
good idea.
Just wander for a while and see
Good
what's
for you.
going on. But I just,
Hate to lose
I
you.
want to say that I've enjoyed being on it, and I would definitely do it again if I were staying here,
Well, we hate to lose you, but,
but I'm not, so.
all right. Do you want to make any mention of the city, what the city's doing?
Yeah, I can mention that.
Why don't you discuss that briefly while we're all here and nobody else is here?
Yeah. So the city has decided with this year's budget that they are going to pull planning and zoning back in-house and start a community development position. So the county's contract with the city ends September 30th. And it does not look like at this point that contract will be renewed. So that will be a new individual coming into that position. I am anticipating and have kind of made the decision that I'll stay with the county and potentially go a different direction. But yeah, we wish whoever comes into that role the best of luck, and it'll be yeah, we'll be transitioning probably around September, when the contract is ending. So that decision has been made with council approving budget on May 3rd, and we'll see how things go with that, so.
And being is that we meet fairly infrequently, or certainly not on a regularly scheduled.
Yeah, this could
basis,
potentially be the last.
pan out for us, and who might be sitting there the next time. So
So in other words, you don't work directly for the city, is that it?
No, I'm employed by the county and we have a contract with the city. Same with Nancy. So we're employed by the county planning department and then contracted to administer zoning for the city. And the city has decided that they do not want to renew that contract and would like to employ the position in-house. So I imagine that posting will be coming up soon. And
That all kind of happened at the same time that they got rid of a city building inspector. I think they, in the budget cutting process, they looked at regionalizing some things.
well, Denise Blakesley I think Denise either resigned or retired or whatever happened, and I think about that same time,
Didn't fill the position.
Phil kind of dissolved that department.
right,
And, well, as we talked about earlier, it's gonna be painful to reestablish and
yeah.
literally start from scratch that department again.
Well, for my 2 cents, you guys have been pretty easy to work with. Others in the past, not so much. So much.
How long has it been that way that the county was doing?
5 years.
5 years.
At the end of the contract, it was a 5-year contract.
Okay, so the last gentleman that I met that was the planner was also
Zach,
working.
Yep,
So I'm just hoping that they have the wisdom and vision to get somebody who's gonna be reasonable and rational in that position. 'Cause in my opinion anyway, there've been major improvements in the last year, and I'd hate to see a step backward and put somebody in that seat who's a little trigger happy and
Could go either
a
way.
little too zealous.
Well, anyway, that's,
Yeah.
just thought now would be a good time. to
yes,
kind of
yeah,
give
thank you
everybody
for
a heads
that,
up on
because I did kind of let the HGC know and the planning commission, and I'm not sure if, Bill will be kind of, addressing that with each board and commission, but I felt with the budget being approved that it was appropriate time to kind of share that news with the boards and commissions I work with, so.
Appreciate it.
One comment, I like the bylaw amendments, very good.
Good, thank you.
Nice job. All
I
right.
should also say compliments to the gentleman that did our street. They did a marvelous job of not putting us out, not inconveniencing us any more than they needed to. And they were all very nice and thoughtful and so forth. So whoever did, the company did a really nice job, the crew there, so.
Good.
That's good. All right, now, motion to adjourn. Everybody speak up at once.
So moved.
All right, we're done.